1990 was shaping up to be a very busy year for Jim Henson again. While working on Muppet Vision 3D, Jim and the rest of the Muppet performers had flown down to Orlando, Florida, and had gone to Disney World to film The Muppets at Disney World, a TV special. Jim, Kermit, Clifford, and Kevin Clash appeared on the Arsenio Hall show on May 4th to promote the Disney special. This is the same interview where Clifford admits that he likes to be spanked.
No, I know what she wants. Like if she wants a little spanking, she yells. I've never been spanked, man. Well, I'm happy for you. Between you and me, man, you don't know what you're missing.
The Muppets at Disney World debuted on May 6th. What no one knew is that Jim was sick. During the Arsenio Hall show interview, he had a case of strep throat and was in the early stages of pneumonia brought on by a rare Group A streptococcal bacterial infection. The bacteria was slowly spreading through his lungs and organs. Throughout the following couple of days, Jim was losing his voice and quickly got more and more sick. In the early morning of May 15, 1990, Jim Henson woke up from his sleep at 2 a.m. He was having trouble breathing and it hurt his abdomen to cough. Jim couldn't stop coughing, however, and was coughing up blood. Jane Henson wanted to call a doctor, but Jim didn't want her to. "Just rub my back," he said. "Try to calm down my breathing." By 4 a.m., Jim finally said, "Okay, I'll go to the hospital." Jane called Arthur Noble, Jim's PR manager, who knew exactly what to do in this situation. When Arthur Noble answered the call, Jane immediately said, "I'm here with Jim at the apartment. Is everything all right?" "No, here's Jim." Jane handed Jim the phone and told Arthur, "I'm very sick." Arthur told him, "Jim, it'll be okay. I love you." Jim then told him, "Arthur, just look after them for me." Arthur Noble quickly called a private car to come pick up Jim and Jane and take him to the hospital. The car sped to New York Hospital on East 68th Street. The car pulled up to the main entrance instead of the emergency entrance. Jim, not wanting to bother anyone else, walked the half block to the ER himself. When he arrived, he was immediately taken into the exam room. He waved weakly to Jane and said, quote, "I'll see you later. I feel like I'm in good hands." Jim Henson was admitted into New York Hospital at 4:58 a.m. on Tuesday, May 15th. This video is brought to you by Rogue Energy. When I'm up in my room editing, writing, or gaming, I love to have a good drink with me. It keeps me focused and relaxed. Rogue Energy is absolutely my go-to drink. It is much healthier than any other energy drink. It has 0 sugar, it is gluten-free, and paleo-friendly. They have 16 delicious flavors available like Radiant Rush, Rocket Pop, Sour Candy, Grape Popsicle, and many more. Rogue also has hydration available with flavors like Fruit Punch, Rainbow Candy, and Strawberry Bubblegum. Head on over to rogueenergy.com to get your energy or hydration drinks, starter kits, or shaker cups, and use code BBDIZ10 for 10% off your entire order. Thank you to Rogue Energy, and again, use code BBDIZ10 for 10% off your entire order. Now, let's get back to the video. By 8 a.m., Jim could only breathe with a breathing tube. He was unresponsive and wouldn't regain consciousness through the hospital visit at all. All morning, Jim's friends were notified about what was happening. None of them could believe it. Many of Jim's friends came to visit him throughout the day. As soon as David Laser heard of Jim's condition, he got to the hospital as quickly as he could. The first call made was to Bernie Brillstein, Jim's manager and agent. When Bernie heard the news, his response was, quote, "You're kidding." Aine Kinney, Jim's assistant, was tasked with calling employees and the Muppet performers. She made these calls from Jim's office. Everyone was so stunned to receive the news. Quote, "I couldn't believe it," said Dave Goles. "Jim was so vital and indestructible. I lost it. I pretty much cried myself to sleep," said Kevin Clash. Frank Oz said, quote, "It was awful to hear." Frank called Steve Whitmire and gave him the news. Frank Oz, Steve Whitmire, Jerry Nelson were just some of the friends and family who came in to see Jim that night. All of them took turns sitting by his bed and held his hand and talked to him. Just after 1 a.m., Jim's heart stopped beating. The medical team rushed to his bedside to administer CPR. After doctors had performed CPR without success, they then tried to use a defibrillator. It was no use. He was gone. Jim Henson died at 1:21 a.m. on Wednesday, May 16, 1990. He was surrounded by 4 of his 5 children and Jane Henson. He was 53 years old.
I feel very sorry that your best friend Jim died. What? Died?
Jim died? But we were just starting to get to know him.
Perhaps the substance of Jim Henson's genius was the ability to see wonder far off in crazy directions and get people to follow him there.
John Henson, Jim's son, hugged his father for the last time and said, quote, "I love you, Dad." Heather Henson was the last of the Henson children to arrive. Frank Oz quietly informed the others of what had just happened. He and David Laser started making phone calls to other Muppet performers and employees. All night long and into the morning, word spread throughout the Henson company. Jerry Nelson sat and tried to console John, who, just like all of his siblings, were devastated. Quote, "It was hard to even cry. A few tears were around, but everyone was just stunned. We just couldn't believe this had happened," said Steve Whitmire. After Jim's death, 2 letters addressed to the Henson children were delivered to them from his attorneys. Inside the letters were details of Jim's funeral wishes. Jim was not afraid of the thought of death, and he actually looked forward to it with much curiosity. He considered it an opportunity to meet up with some of his friends who would have passed away before he did. Jim wanted a nice friendly service with the talents of some of the good people who had worked with him over the years. He also thought it would be lovely if some of the people who sing would do a song or two. Jim Henson's memorial service took place on May 21st, 1990 at the Cathedral of St. John the Divine. Jim's wishes would be fulfilled, including his wish that no one wear black. The memorial also famously included Big Bird singing "It's Not Easy Being Green."
It's not that easy being green, having to spend the day the color of the leaves, when I think it could be nicer being red or yellow or gold or something much more colorful like that.
Jim's body was cremated and given to his son John Henson. The Henson children tried to determine where to scatter the ashes of their father for a long time. That wasn't done until 1992. After the memorial service, the future of the Jim Henson Company and the Muppets was uncertain. How would the Muppets continue without Jim Henson? Could it be done? Jim left the company to his children. Brian Henson, who was creative and had worked for his father on previous films, decided to make another Muppet movie. He wasn't sure what the story would be, but he wanted to do something different and not be compared to his dad. A question that was on everyone's mind immediately: who would perform Jim's characters, specifically Kermit? The answer was simple. Steve Whitmire had already taken over the role of Kermit by this time, so he would obviously be cast as Kermit. While Brian Henson was considering what the story would be for the new film, Bill Haber approached Brian and told him, quote, "Christmas Carol is the greatest story of all time. You should do that." Brian liked the idea, and this would be his directorial debut. They started to work on the script and decided to parody Charles Dickens's A Christmas Carol. Robin the Frog was going to be the ghost of Christmas past. Miss Piggy was going to be the ghost of Christmas present, and Animal was going to be the ghost of Christmas future. Jerry Jewell was writing the script, and during this process he started to fall more and more in love with the great source material. Instead of comically parroting the story, they decided to present it in a more serious way. They also decided to faithfully adapt the ghost to the screen instead of having already existing Muppet characters play them. After reconsidering the story, they decided to faithfully adapt the story to the screen and have Charles Dickens himself in the movie. Gonzo played the storyteller with Rizzo as his sidekick. Jerry Jewell actually put direct quotes from the book into the script as Gonzo's lines. They decided that Kermit would play Bob Cratchit, Miss Piggy as Mrs. Cratchit, Robin as Tiny Tim, Fozzie as Fezziwig, which they renamed Fozziewig because everyone thought it was really funny. Steve Whitmire was really nervous taking over Kermit in a feature film from Jim. The night before the songs were recorded, Steve was having trouble sleeping. He had a dream where Jim came to him. He told him, quote, "I'm really nervous about taking over Kermit." Jim looked at him and said, "It'll pass." He then walked away. This gave Steve the confidence he needed. He felt Bob Cratchit was a great role for Kermit, since they are both people who look after people. Michael Caine was cast as Scrooge. Brian Henson had a meeting to talk to Michael, and one of the first things he said was, quote, "I'm going to play this movie like I'm working with the Royal Shakespeare Company. I will never wink. I will never do anything Muppety. I'm going to play Scrooge as if it was an utterly dramatic role, and there are no puppets around me." Michael Caine gives the greatest performance in any Muppet movie, and probably the greatest Scrooge performance of all time. His performance is partly what makes the film so great and why it works so well. Brian Henson did such a great job at directing. Michael was shocked when he learned it was his directorial debut. Like any good Muppet movie, the music in Christmas Carol is spectacular. The music was written by Paul Williams, who had also wrote the music in the Muppet movie. This was his first time working with the Muppets since Jim Henson's death. Like many, Paul was wondering how the production would go without Jim. Paul said that he loved working with Jim Henson, and loved the creative freedom Jim gave his peers. By all accounts, production on Muppet Christmas Carol went smoothly, and everyone was a joy to work with. At this time, Richard Hunt, who performed Scooter, Beaker, Statler, Janice, Sweetums, and many more Muppets, was diagnosed with HIV. He did not perform any characters in Muppet Christmas Carol because of this illness. Sadly, Richard Hunt passed away due to complications with AIDS on January 7th, 1992. He was 40 years old. This was another blow to the Henson Company. However, production began on Muppet's Christmas Carol in June 1992 at Shepperton Studios in England. Production was extremely fast for Christmas Carol, and they wrapped the film in July 1992. This was the first Muppet movie to focus more on the human characters than the Muppet characters, since Scrooge is the main character. I think many people know the classic story A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, but in case you don't, the novel was published in 1843. The story takes place on Christmas Eve, 7 years after the death of Scrooge's business partner, Jacob Marley. Ebenezer Scrooge is probably the meanest and cruelest character in fiction who hates Christmas. He does, however, give Bob Cratchit the day off. Later that night, Scrooge is visited by Marley's ghost. In the Muppets version, Brian Henson added Jacob Marley's brother, Robert Marley, so Statler and Waldorf could play them. Marley is held down by chains in the afterlife due to a life of greed and selfishness. He tells Scrooge that he is going to be visited by 3 ghosts tonight to change his fate. He is visited by the ghost of Christmas past. The ghost shows Scrooge his childhood, reminding him of a better time. The ghost also shows Scrooge a Christmas party hosted by his first boss, who treated him like a son. Lastly, the ghost shows Scrooge the night that his fiancée Belle ended their relationship. The second ghost visits him, the ghost of Christmas present. That takes Scrooge to a market where people are buying Christmas dinners and shows him people celebrating Christmas. He then shows Bob Cratchit's family and Tiny Tim. The last ghost, Ghost of Christmas Future, shows Scrooge what happens to him after he is dead. No one mourns his death. He also shows Scrooge the Cratchit family mourning Tiny Tim's death. Scrooge then pledges to change. Scrooge wakes up on Christmas morning a changed man and shows up to the Cratchit home with a large turkey. In Muppet Christmas Carol, the cast is as follows: Gonzo as Charles Dickens, Kermit as Bob Cratchit, Miss Piggy as Emily Cratchit, Robin the Frog as Tiny Tim, Statler and Waldorf as Marley and Marley, Fozziwig, and Michael Caine as Ebenezer Scrooge. Muppet Christmas Carol released on December 11th, 1992, and became an immediate classic. Muppet Christmas Carol is one of the most faithful adaptations of the original Charles Dickens novel. Muppet Christmas Carol made $27.3 million in the box office. It was not a smash success, but that didn't matter much because over the years since it has released, it has become a cult classic. Even though it's not currently Christmas time at the time of recording, let's go watch Muppet Christmas Carol and discuss what makes this film so much fun. So here we are in April at the time of this recording, and I'm sitting here watching a Christmas movie, something I've never done in my life, to be honest. Usually Christmas movies are exclusively for December, but when you're doing this kind of thing, you have to bend the rules a little. There's actually 2 Christmas movies that I need to watch for this series. One of them will be watched in August or something, now that I think about it. So, 2026, weird year. Anyway, Muppet Christmas Carol. I did a video a couple years ago where it was top 7 Christmas, like Disney Christmas movies, or Christmas. I think it was just Christmas movies in general, maybe. And I think I had Muppet Christmas Carol either at number 2 or number 1. I may have had it at number 1. That's because this movie is an absolute banger. Everything about it. This is quite possibly the best Christmas movie ever made. And it's honestly my second favorite Muppet movie ever made. When we get to my first, you will know what that is. But yeah, literally everything in this movie for a Muppet movie is perfect. It's not the perfect movie. That doesn't exist. But for a Muppet movie, it's absolutely perfect. This is, honestly, this is where the whole, like, Muppets being actors, and this is the best example of it. Obviously, Muppet Wizard of Oz is terrible. Great Muppet Caper, they still use the same kind of names. And but this one, they're playing existing characters that we know and love if you've read A Christmas Carol before. They're obviously different names. They're different characters that are not written by they're characters written by Charles Dickens. So obviously Christmas Carol is one of the greatest stories ever told, one of the greatest novels. So the source material is absolutely amazing. And honestly, I think, and this is probably not that much of a hot take, Muppet Christmas Carol is the best adaptation of A Christmas Carol. Nothing even comes close. Michael Caine's Scrooge is played so well. His delivery, not only he's a great actor in general, but his delivery is so good in this film. Like he said, he played it like there wasn't Muppets around him. He played it like this is a serious movie. His performance is unbelievable. And then, of course, the other Muppet performances are great as well. But, yeah, I mean, it's amazing. I don't really have to go into detail too much about the story because we know that the story is so good. You get it. Feel bad for Scrooge when he realizes, like, the horrible person that he is and the horrible person that he's become. And honestly, one of the best character arcs of all time. One of the best written characters of all time. Don't have much criticism about Christmas Carol. One thing that stands out from the Muppet Christmas Carol is that the set, there was one shot where you can tell it's a London soundstage. Like the close-in shots are really good, but when the far-away shots, you can tell this is in a soundstage. The lighting is pretty atrocious. I don't know if I guess it's not really the lighting. I guess it's how the camera is positioned, but that shot was absolutely atrocious. Other than that, don't have much critique. I don't know. I felt like Fozzie should have had a more... And I know that Fezziwig in Christmas Carol, or Muppet Christmas Carol, but I get that Fezziwig is technically a big character in the story of A Christmas Carol, but he's not on screen for that often. Is Scooter even in this? Scooter's not even in this, I don't think. I didn't see him. Maybe he was a background character. But there was just big Muppets that took back roles. And I don't know. It's a good change, I guess, but at the same time, I could have gone for more Muppets that we know and love already. But again, small critique. The music in this, oh my god, the music in this is, I think, maybe the best out of any, possibly the best music out of any of the Muppet movies. There's 3 that come to mind, music, 4 actually, that come to mind that have really, really, really good music. Muppet movie, this, Muppets 2011, and Muppets Most Wanted music is actually very, very, very underrated. Muppets Most Wanted is very underrated in general, but Muppets Most Wanted music is absolutely amazing. But this music is unbelievable. Don't let anyone tell you that Marley and Marley is not the best song in this entire movie. It's great to see Statler and Waldorf getting in on some of the action here, because for a long time they kind of haven't had. There was one episode of the Muppet Show where they kind of perform. They don't get to do that very often, you know what I mean? They're not in many of the Muppet movies to begin with. This was their biggest role to date, because the other biggest role was the kind of cameo in Great Muppet Caper. Other than that, the big role that they had in the show is drastically reduced. But yeah, that song is absolutely incredible. One More Sleep Till Christmas is a great song, very catchy. Scrooge is a great opening number, establishing how everybody feels about Scrooge, and how at that time people are literally singing about how he's this mean, cold man, and he doesn't register that, right? I don't know if canonically he can hear what they're singing about, but if he can, he doesn't care, you know what I mean? And then when the ghost takes him and shows him what people feel about him, then all of a sudden he's like, oh, I understand this. It's also it's also death, the ghost of Christmas future. So yeah, music is incredible. I also think that Scrooge is just an unbelievable character. He is written, Charles Dickens obviously is a great writer. He wrote Scrooge unbelievably well. It's great. It's just amazing to see a character arc like this, where it goes from such a drastic change in one night too. And it does show you exactly what happens when you're cruel, when you're greedy. It shows you the consequences. And it shows you how important a legacy is, really, if you really think about it. And it shows you the power of changing your ways. You know, high school bullies go through this a lot, where they'll grow up, they'll mature, they'll realize that, hey, like, what I was doing back then wasn't right, and they'll go a lot of times and contact people and apologize. It's great when people do that. And just talking in the greater scheme of things in life here, I think it's great when people can get a redemption like Scrooge. So I think we can really take away something from this movie and from A Christmas Carol in general. Anyway, I can rave on and on about this movie, to be honest, and I know you can too. So you can easily do that in the comments. Go right ahead. And yeah, I love this movie. I really did. Every single time I watch it, puts a huge smile on my face. I was so looking forward to watching this again. And yeah, absolutely love Muppet Christmas Carol. It's so good. And you really don't need an excuse to watch it at Christmas, like I found out today. Oh, and one thing before we close off here. It is interesting because Bean Bunny makes an appearance during this. And I believe that Bean Bunny's first appearance, or first prominent appearance, I should say, because I think he shows up in the Muppet Show. But his first prominent appearance is Muppet Vision. So it's kind of interesting that he again makes sort of a cameo in this. He just he shows up to Scrooge's doorstep. Anyway, the next video will be about Muppet Treasure Island. We'll get a little Tim Curry action going. Hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you in the next video.